Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Panter. I'm representing Picturehouse. I'm an architect who's worked with Picturehouse for more than 15 years. With me up here are Holly Smallman of Picturehouse and Sarah Robinson of Panter Husbys Architects. Our vision for this building is very simple, in that we think that this area needs a cinema, and we think it needs a proper cinema. Picturehouse you can see there, they have 4 cinemas around South London, from Clapham, the Ritzy, East Dulwich, which recently opened, and Greenwich. And we think that this area would do very well with a local cinema. And the benefit of having a Picturehouse, we think, is that they generally end up being local cinemas for local people and people who can walk here. Now, the building, frankly, is in a terrible state, certainly the ancillary spaces. And I think the other issue with it, which you can see from the photograph in the centre, is that there is a very large apartment building at the back of the site, which you currently can't see very much because the site is so overgrown. And I think that the implications of building very close to that apartment building are quite severe. And in this time of the year, the vegetation looks in some ways quite interesting. But when it's tidied up, it will become very much more open. And in the spaces inside, the main pool space, I think, is a very interesting space, and it's quite a challenge from finding a use for it, but we think that it could provide a very interesting cinema auditoria, and also a bar area at the front, which I'll explain. So, the AXO you can see on the right, basically what we do is we use the existing spaces within the building as the cinema foyer public spaces. And we put one screen within the main pool hall, and we build some additional screens on the footprint and a slightly extended footprint of pool number 2 at the back of the building, and we remove the tank from the back rear corner. This is a ground floor plan. And you can see the entrance is where the entrance is. The tower becomes a staircase, and it has the roof reinstated. And that staircase enables you to go up to the upper levels to enter the screens. And we have 5 screens. We have 1 in the main pool hall, and we have 4 smaller screens to the rear. Within the changing area is a 1930s building on the left, which is coloured green. That becomes the cinema, cafe and foyer, and opens out towards the coroner's court and the space there. The courtyard is left open, and you can see the green area at the front of the main. You can't see the colours here, I do apologise. So at the front of the main pool hall, we're having the cinema bar, and I think that the reason that will work well is at the moment that is a dead frontage to the street, and if we use that as a bar, we can open it up again, because the balcony currently runs past the windows in a rather haphazard way, and closing it off to the street in some ways is a bit of a shame. No colours again. So this is the first floor, but you can imagine going up the stair in the tower and walking in a direct route back to the screens at the back, turning right to the screen 1 on your way, with the courtyard open in the centre. This is just an idea of what screen 1 could look like within the main pool hall. We think the seating could sit within the frame, so essentially we can leave most of the perimeter untouched. And you can see the little projection port in a wall at the back, which is the wall that separates the auditoria from the bar. This is the East Dulwich Picturehouse, and just shows you what, this is a much smaller screen. We would get 220 in the main screen in the Ladywell pool. This is a 100-seater in East Dulwich with an open roof. This is the foyer at East Dulwich, just showing how we have a triple height space in the bar area. And this is a view of the front of the main pool hall, which again would be, I suppose it's 4 stories high, with 2 levels of bar seating and the bar counter underneath the projection room, which would be suspended on the wall on the left. Here are some images of other cinemas that Picturehouse have in London. There's one in Crouch End and there's Picturehouse Central. Both of those are in existing buildings, very different kinds of buildings, 1950s and also early 20th century buildings. And each Picturehouse foyer is very different, and it responds to the nature and the style of the building it sits within. These are some images of Crouch End. So one of the things that we can do on the first floor of this building is have some community spaces. These shots are of the community rooms at Crouch End, which are used for various different facilities and activities which are quite different to cinema. This is a view of the courtyard, and I think the courtyard's quite interesting, and leaving it as it is and open, I think it's got a lot of potential because it allows you to interpret the building as it was. Now this axo, which again the colour's gone, and this basically shows us you what we would try and do with the site. Now, to do this, we need a grant from Heritage Lottery, and if we do that, it means we do not need to develop anything else on the site, other than the little pink bit in the middle, which is a single-storey building that would back onto the apartment buildings, and landscaping. And I think landscaping is a very important part of this scheme. And this is a view from the cinema cafe looking across to the coroner's court, with a simple single-storey kind of box park building on the right, which would have complementary activities that would work with the cinema. So you have a cinema cafe, which is open 364 days a year, and other retail or food and beverage units set behind the mature trees that front the road. Maybe that's slightly better. So there you can see the pink of the single-storey building. We keep all of the landscaping to the front of the site. We have a small amount of parking for disabled behind the restored railings. And this plan also means that it provides very good access to the courtyard behind the coroner's court, so that could be developed in a way that would work with the site as a whole. On your right, you can see some images of perhaps what the pop-up food area could be. And just to finish, I've got another couple of projects that Picturehouse have done. This one is in York. It's a Picturehouse in York. It was a derelict print works on the river, top left. It was funded by the lottery to form a new 3-screen cinema, and that's how it looks today. So we have done this before with grant money in existing buildings. And then just to finish, that's the Clapham Picturehouse, and that just shows how it regenerates streets in the neighbourhood. On the left is what Venn Street used to be like, which was just a street with cars, and on the right you can see, as it is now, no cars, but market stalls and lots of people. And that's the view you get of the public space at the back of the site. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. That was great. We're going to take questions again. So Did you just switch this one off? No, you didn't. It's still on. Great. Okay, so that's for you or any members of your team. And we're going to send Andy out with a roving mic for your question.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to ask a probably very controversial question about your industrial relations in terms of the recent things that have gone on in terms of staffing, in terms of conditions, because that is a very key thing in terms of employment in the community.
Sure.
So I have great reservations about it, so I'd like an answer if possible. Thank you. Thank you.
I guess I envisaged a question like this, and I'm going to avoid it. For the very reason that I am not the person to answer that. My job is to acquire new cinemas, and that's what I do, and I've bought 4 or 5 into the estate in the last 10 years. All I could say is please go onto our website, look at /pay. We are proud of paying, by being one amongst the highest payers in the cinema industry. We are not signed up to the London Living Wage. We are very close to that level. And I think if you read the statement, we are very, very close to that level. There's another round of pay talks in September. We have a mixed, diverse group of people who work with us. Some people, I'm actually self-employed for the company, and I work at varying hours depending on the requirements of the business. I think you need to look at it from the employee's point of view as well. And I would just refer you back to the statement. I'm not a person who's at liberty. I'm here to answer all your questions about the gorgeous cinema that we can bring to this site. Forgive me.
I really appreciate that. I'm one of the local councillors.
Sure.
And I do feel it's really, really important.
Sure.
That we are very clear about, the London Living Wage, and as a very strong Labour Council, we support that 101%, and that's what we're looking for in terms of any bidder that's going to provide a service.
Sure.
So, thank you for what you've said, but I just want to reiterate,
of course,
it's very, very... Sorry? So I think it's really, really important,
sure.
So thank you for your comments.
All right. Does anyone like to know anything about the cinema?
Can you tell me how you marry up the Box Park open courtyard cafe usage with the residential behind and the site-filling massing of the extra cinema spaces next to the St Mary's conservation area?
Well, I think the box park in front of the apartment building is set far enough forward, and the box park buildings themselves face away from the apartment buildings so that they are shielded from the space. But I recognise that it's a tight site and that there will need to be controls over the hours of activity there. But having said that, it's not... what we didn't want to do was overdevelop this site, and it's a very modest single-storey building which just faces forward towards the street. In terms of the building to the rear of the Playtower building, it's about 50% bigger than the number 2 pool house and similar in height. And the walls around it would be greened with we'd have planting growing up them so that it would have a similar feel to it does at the moment. Although we would be able to, if we can get access to the churchyard and the footpath at the back, we will provide access through the site.
Why a cinema here rather than in the centre of Lewisham? All the development going on there. I don't know.
I can answer that. There may well be a cinema in the centre of Lewisham. The developer is proposing one there. I have looked at that. I don't know where they are with that. Picturehouse is the antithesis to the multiplex. If you know anything of our cinemas, you will know that every single one of them is different. The population here can support both, and we love restoring old buildings. So this is just natural territory for Picturehouse. I could have put a site in the middle of Lewisham in a what might otherwise be termed a miniplex in a modern building. That's not for us, but that might be for another operator, and I'm sure they've signed someone up. So it's as simple as we can do both in this neighbourhood. Great for you, people who live here.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hi. We very recently moved to Ladywell. We bought a house and we're very excited to be here. And we were very, very excited to hear about them planning to do something with the Playtower because we think it's a beautiful building. My question is simply, how long will it take? Like, how long do we have to wait before we might be able to actually make the most of what I think could potentially be an amazing addition to the area?
The grant process adds a bit of time, and so these developments are never fast, but it won't be less than 3 years, and one would hope it wouldn't be more than 3.5.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I think a lot of us in this local area do go to and enjoy the picture houses, particularly in Greenwich. I myself have even been involved in programming some events at Greenwich. And we like the picture houses, and we're very excited about the prospect of this because, as everyone here probably knows, we've been without a decent cinema in the Lewisham area for a long, long time. There's an amazing website which shows hundreds that used to be up the road a few years ago. But I just really want to come back to the point that our local councillor raised, because actually, I'm sorry, I don't think it's good enough to say, can we talk about the cinema? I know it's not your area of expertise, fair enough, but the cinema is the people who work in it as well. And so the people who would be working at this cinema would probably be from the local area.
Absolutely.
So I think while we're excited about this, we want to hear some assurances from picture houses that the people who will be working there will be paid a decent living wage, because there's strikes going on and action going on at Ritzy and it's spreading to other cinemas. And you say there's talks happening again in September. Well, this consultation ends in September. So I really hope that Picture House, the management there, get on the case, talk to the unions, and pay their staff a decent living wage.
Could I just say that as we've had that question and Holly's dealt with it as best she can, that if it's something you feel strongly about, then that's what your feedback forms are for. We'll be collating the things that people have to say to us here, and we'll be sharing those views prior to any decisions being made. I'd just like to give people an opportunity to ask any other questions with the time that we've got allotted.
Thank you. I'm very pleased with the ideas that you've had and the previous applicant to restore the building to its original state and respect the village heritage. I do hope you're going to restore the fountain and the coping stones that were in the front garden that commemorated the well of Ladywell, and I think that will go down very well.
Absolutely, that will be part of the landscaping at the front.
Excellent, thank you.
I'm very curious to see how the space, the beautiful space that's there, and spaces that surrounding it can be restored and be used as a cinema screen, which also needs the sound insulation. How will you deal with that?
To form the main screen, we would build an acoustic wall between that and the cafe bar, and within the main space, which is screen 1, we would have to close off the glazed roof light with a flat section of ceiling. But it would mean that it would mean that you would still see the structure, and you would still see the sloped barrel vault to the sides. What we are able to do with acoustic panels and linings is to achieve the separation between the cinema and the outside, so that we can prevent noise getting into the screen and also prevent noise getting out. And because we don't have a screen directly next to it, the walls do not have to be as high a performance as if you were trying to pack the screens in.
Hi. 3 of the 4 presentations are for cinemas or have cinemas in them. What's different about yours than the other 2?
I haven't seen the other two yet, so
Who knows?
so I don't know. Well, what I would say is that we looked at putting enabling development on the site, and we felt that the site was too tight for additional enabling development, and we wanted a cinema that worked properly, and we wanted a cinema that was the right size for a Picturehouse cinema. And that's what we've done with the Playtower building, so that we have all of the foyer and community spaces within the existing building, and the only extra construction we're doing is a little single-storey building, which you can see on the right-hand side of this view.
Which is it? Can I just add that which we are loosely calling Box Park is an addition which would be funded separately. So if people don't want it, then we don't put it on. It's there about creating some start-up spaces for people to work in. There may be, you know, it's to try and enliven and give the place sort of more solidity, really. But if people don't want that, then we're happy to listen to feedback.
I think the other thing to say is as well that there's a range of screen sizes. So we've got a small screen that can be used for sort of private hire functions as well. So it could be children's parties or other parties, and that would link in with the community space next door to it. So it could be hired as a joint event. So it really is a place that's open every hour of every day for people to go in and just have coffee, even if they don't see a film.
What are the numbers likely to be of visitors in comparison, say, to Dulwich?
Yeah, so this cinema would have 5 screens, which is 620 seats. East Dulwich is 3 screens with 244 seats. Brixton is 5 screens.
5 screens, 800 seats.
800 seats.
West Norwood, which opens in due course, that's 4 screens and 550 seats. The more screens you have, the more choice of film we can put on. Screens of varying ranges, so this is 225 maximum, means that when James Bond comes out, 225 people can watch it on the first day, but the 5th screen, which is 50 seats here, would lend itself very much to Girl on a Train, which is still showing in week 6. So it gives you that variety, allowing the programme to continue for the full run that you would like to watch the film. And as Sarah said, having a small screen, we can hire that out with the function rooms, either for corporate or private events. You know, hopefully you know enough about us that every single site is different. You know, they speak for themselves, I would hope.
And I think the thing with East Dulwich is it's a 3-screen cinema and it is quite small, but it's really, really, really popular and successful, and actually we'd have liked another screen there, but because Picturehouse wanted to restore that building, which had been left derelict since the 80s or before, there was not another building in a suitable location to redevelop, a historic building to save and put a cinema in, and so commercially we could have done with another screen, but we wanted to save that building, so that's right.
Great, thank you. Just last question at the back here.
Thank you. I hope you and none of the other developers are thinking of replacing the bricks at the front of the building with their lovely round holes created by generations of kids queuing up with their pennies for the baths.
No, that's a fantastic bit of social history of the area and cultural history. No, we think it's brilliant and would save that. Yeah, absolutely.
We point.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Picturehouse.